Dobar dan. That means good day. This is TalkCast PDX. Find us on the web, talkcastpdx.com. It's Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. Name of the show is The Bogdanich Perspective. I'm your host, Paul Bogdanich, and welcome. It's episode 52, so I've been doing this for 52 weeks. That approximates a year, not quite, but close. And name of the show is Divorce. Hope that'll become clear later. We're going to go the consumer price index was released last week, and then the producer price index was released this morning. So we're going to go straight to that, just because it's objective news. Justin, if you could please put up chart number 1, please. And these are for February. The invasion of Ukraine did not start until February 24th. So this does not reflect, well, it reflects whatever it would be 4 days out of 28 days. So 2 out of 14, 1 out of 7. So 1/7 of the days after the war started. But in other words, some of the categories here will adjust mightily next week. But there you have it. The headline numbers for both the consumer price index, CPI, and the producer price index, PPI, were up 0.8% in a month. So that's whatever that is, 9.6% a year, 0.8% times 12. You can see the different categories in between consumer prices and producer prices. Price of the red numbers there are decreases. Cereal and bakery products up over 1%, both categories. Producer price of beef is coming down. Consumer price of beef is going up a little bit. Pork, bigger increases in producer prices than consumers. Same with chicken, same with shellfish. Huge increase in the producer prices of eggs, because the Canadians had to destroy, I can't remember how many millions of pounds of chickens because of the transportation irregularities of a couple of months ago, or a month ago. Fresh fruits and vegetables as we increase production moving into spring, down a little bit for producers, up quite a bit for consumers. And gasoline and natural gas, obviously, are the two most important metrics. Price of gasoline's up huge. I don't think you needed to be told that, but there you have it. Shelter's a problem, obviously. Cost of shelter, 0.9 and 0.6. That's not good. Price of alcoholic beverages on the increase. And that's, if you could take that one down. And again, it doesn't reflect the problems post the invasion of the Donbass, or the whole of Ukraine, actually, in Russia. I go through the news feeds and the articles and the newspaper, and I try and pick out items that I find of interest and then weave it into some kind of a script. And it's getting hard to do that. I'm a member of TalkCast PDX, and they have lifestyle shows and cooking shows and travel shows and marijuana shows and this shows and that shows. And I broadcast on their network, and so I have to be observant of the content rules that YouTube, owned by Google, and others promulgate. And I do that, but it severely limits discussion. And they can tell you anything. And if they mandate that any opposing viewpoint is against the content rules, then all you'll ever hear is that, whatever it is they want to tell you. And it makes things hard, but I picked out some things in the paper that I was going to try, news sources that I was going to try and weave into a script. A British MP, which is an elected, he's like a senator. He's a mix in between a senator and a congressman. They only have one house of Congress, so he's got more constituents, but less power than a senator, but more power than a congressman, but a British MP. And he gave a speech on one of the a topic that had to do with what Google considers to be controlled content. And this is in the British House of Commons. It's like a person getting up and giving a speech on the Senate floor, matter of public record, etc. Guy's name was Christopher Shope, Chope, and he got up and gave a speech, and pretty well written, persuasive British type speech, and they took it down off all the platforms. And he's like I said, he's like the equivalent of a senator. So if they're doing that to people like that, they're enforcing it on everybody. The war created sanctions, and then the Russians counter sanctions, and blah, blah, blah. And in testimony, they asked the EU head of foreign affairs and security policy, EU, European Union, and he said, quote, "We have used up all of the possible restrictive measures against Russia in response to the ongoing war in Ukraine. We have already reached the limits of what we can do. We have done everything we can," unquote. And that was his testimony in the EU, indicating that we pulled out all the stops on sanctions. Biden gave a speech. He said, "Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin." Again, I would point out that before the war started, for the first 24 out of 28 days of February, the producer price index was up at a 9.6% annual rate, and the consumer price index was up before at a 9.6% annual rate before the war. But make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin. Congress passed a spending bill, included a pay increase for them because inflation, they have to pay more for gas and things like that. So I think they got a 12 to 20% pay increase. 367 pages long, loaded with what they call earmarks, which is just where a congressman or a senator puts in something and, they distribute money. The abuse of the policy got so bad back in, when Bush invaded Iraq in 2008, they didn't even have a budget for 3 years in a row. And they used to do everything by supplemental appropriation. These same people, by the way, Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, Chuck Schumer, all these people are the same, for the last 30 years, a lot of them. So if you wonder why things are the way they are, and you go to the ballot and you vote for change, but you keep voting for the same guys and never get any change, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, they passed this 367-page bill. Nobody had a chance to read it. They brought back the earmarks, okay? In other words, they spent roughly $20 billion for aid and weapons, mostly to Ukraine. There were 367 pages of these earmarks in there, totaling a little over $10 billion, which is $10,000 million. A guy by the name of Tom Coburn, Republican of Oklahoma, wanted to get a vote on who supported this bringing back of the earmarks, so he forced a vote in the Senate. The only Democrat that voted against the earmarks was John Tester of Montana, and all your Republican leadership, Mitch McConnell, Roy Blunt, Mitt Romney, Lindsey Graham, et cetera, voted for the earmarks. And so they passed comfortably. I think Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader, was I don't know what you'd call him, the leader. He had like 210 separate earmarks, totaling, I can't remember, some enormous amount of money. But that's our response to the international crisis, is throw more money at special interests and constituents. Well, just back to news items. I'm just going to read the news items first before I opine. Russia applied sanctions to palladium, fertilizer, natural gas, oil, nickel, things of that nature. In the European Union, the price of natural gas has gone up considerably more than it has here. And the people over there who make paper, in particular newspaper, books, this grade of paper, had to go to the government and tell them that, hey, the paper itself only cost 680 euros a ton. The natural gas to process, the paper used to cost about 250, euros to process the 680, the ton of paper. But with the price increases, it now costs 750 euros for the natural gas to process the ton of paper that only costs 680 euros. And they basically told them, we can't continue to print anything, unless we get money. So there's problems like that approach, just showing up all over the place. The Canadians, when they had their trucker protests, suspended their constitution, or they don't have a constitution. They suspended their who knows what they did? I'm not an expert on constitutional law, but basically, without charge, they seized people's bank accounts, threw them in prison, et cetera, et cetera. Took their homes, put their children in foster care, had their animals euthanized, all without charge. Because they violated essentially what is a martial law decree. But the American sanctions that we laid on the Russians, essentially, in a broader view, do the same thing. A Russian oligarch has his yacht parked somewhere in the EU or something, and they seize it without charge, without a court hearing, without the determination of a judge, without violation of any law, just because they're mad, at him. And so we've started these asset seizures. All the Russian foreign reserves that were held in international banks, we effectively seized or froze. And that's made a lot of people very nervous, quite frankly. The message that it sends is, if you're a Saudi Arabian or a Bahraini or an Indian or a Pakistani or a Venezuelan or a Brazilian or any unaffiliated country, if you ever think that you might want to do something in your own interest that the United States doesn't approve of, without a court hearing, without a charge, without the determination of a judge, they'll just take all your money. And the world being what it is, that's caused a sea change. All right. This is why I say divorce. Terrorists, I don't mean to ball up the discussion here, but terrorists don't have much money, don't have a lot of men, don't have heavy weapons. So what they do is a spectacular attack, and then they rely on the media to amplify the attack, to provoke the target government into an overreaction that somehow or another serves the purposes of the terrorists. That's, the whole political underpinning of, why anybody would engage in terrorist activity. But if, by the Russian provocation, they provoked an overreaction from the American government. And it's essentially a divorce in between East and West. Little things. It's starting to show up. I talked last week about second and third order effects that these guys weren't smart enough to anticipate. And in a week, all right, fertilizers in particular are becoming a huge problem. Urea, which is just a nitric acid derivative, 130 up 134%. Potash, and this is since the war started, so in less than a month. Potash up 115%. What is this? NH3, so ammonium, up 209%. Sylvite, which is ammonium nitrate derivative, up 179%. But basically, your cost of fertilizer is up, call it 150%, if you can get it. All right, and that, causes problems with growing food. Yeah. The thinking in Washington is, well, we'll just produce it. Okay. To produce nitrate-based fertilizer, you need nitric acid. What is it? HNO3. All right, nitric acid. Been known since Roman times. In Roman times, it was very dilute, had a Latin name. Can't remember what it was, but they used to call it strong water. So it's been around forever. But we've figured out how to purify it. And if you react it with ammonium, you get ammonium nitrate fertilizer, and but it's the base chemical. And they make it in different grades. Very, very pure is called reagent grade, and then like 95 or 99% pure is what you use to make fertilizer. And it turns out that most of your source material, the nitric acid, is made in the affected countries. And if you've created a situation where they really don't want to trade with you in dollars, because if you piss them off, they're just going to take all your dollars in the bank. It's causing a huge problem. President Biden went to the Saudi Arabians, asked them to increase oil production to help him reduce the price. They told him to go pound sand. No, they did. He's going to sign a deal with Iran to secure 5 million barrels a day from them, drive the Israelis out of their mind. But they didn't. Anyway, if the overreaction on our part, based on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, has caused a divorce in between East and West. The Indians, the nation of India, Pakistan, China, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, etc., won't sign on. All right, the movement on their side to start trading in some kind of electronic currency that is based on the Chinese. In the Western press, we use the word yuan. Their financial currency is called the renminbi or something of that nature. I can't remember. But start trading in their dollars, clearing in their dollars and in rubles instead of our dollars. Because essentially, if they trade in our dollars and they do something that we don't like, without charge, without a hearing, without a judge, without anything, we're just going to take their money, so they don't trust us anymore. And the overreaction is causing a lot of damage. And it's going to take years to see. And, it's like, the best way I can put it is it's like an ugly divorce. Where are we going to get 2 million tons of 95% pure nitric acid? We could make it. It's not that hard. But to build the plant to make it, is going to take. If you put all the resources of the United States government on it, unlimited funding, drafted the people that have the expertise to do it, and make them build the plant, you could have it done in maybe 36 months, maybe. Using standard market operation, it's going to take 10 years. The easiest way to get it is to start mining potash, because the byproduct of potash is sulfuric acid. The Russians are going to cut us off from nickel, the metal nickel. That's it for your electric cars. You can't make the batteries without the nickel. Primary byproduct of producing nickel is cobalt. Okay. And that is, cobalt derived as a byproduct of nickel production is like 90% of all the cobalt mined on Earth, because cobalt just happens to be very dispersed and it occurs in nickel deposits. But they can run us out of cobalt or nickel. We can make some arrangement to buy it. They'll say, fine, pay us in Chinese yuan or euros. We don't accept dollars here. And it's like, hey, oh, honey, I need that. You got a acrimonious divorce. You need something that used to be common property. You ask for use of it. She says, no, not until you do this. Not until you return, the portion of my pension fund that you took over here. And it just becomes this huge argument. Going to take years, and the consumer price inflation is going to be the cost. They're going to impoverish us, basically, because they engaged in a hysterical overreaction. We're good at that, by the way. We hysterically overreact to everything. It seems to be our primary expertise these days. It can be anything: common cold, flu, virus, whatever. We'll hysterically overreact. And we hysterically overreacted to this, and it's caused a divorce in between East and West. They're going to stop taking our dollars. That's going to have a very bunch of long-term consequences. Back to things that I saw in the news. This is a good one. A bunch of somebody collected a sample of a cephalopod, fossil of a cephalopod that was 328 million years old. And they finally got around to looking at it. I think it was collected in the late 80s. And they finally got around to looking at it. And it was a new species of cephalopod. And they named the phylum name or genus name or whatever it is, species name, I guess it would be Siliphissimodi bideni, named after Joe Biden. So they named they named it after Joe Biden. It's a 328 million year old cephalopod. It's 82 million years older than any other fossil of that type. It has 10 legs with suckers on the arms, with suckers on the arms. All modern cephalopods, the only surviving ones are octopus and squid, only have 8 legs. But this proves that all ancient cephalopods had 10 legs, and it pushes back the first sample of an ancient cephalopod by something like 82 million years, which is a long time. And so they named one fossil after another. Whatever that is. But anyway, they named it after President Biden. Guy by the name of Robert Barnes, when talking about the hysterical reaction, put out a quote, and he said, quote, "This level of inanity in our power structure is why we're here. These people are caught in a 1990 time loop where West Wing runs on TV, Russia and China are very weak, and the neocons and neoliberal Ivy League allies imagine a unipolar world with them at the helm of the empire." And that's a quote from Robert Barnes, and I absolutely agree with that. They're not reality-based. They don't think about the consequences of what they're doing. They're going to push the cost of little things, fertilizer, wheat, barley, a bunch of your grains through the roof here, and then becoming relatively soon. Guy by the name of Neil Oliver, this is a good quote. "Maybe the Large Hadron Collider actually created another universe after all, a much more bonkers universe." And that's where we are now. There was some speculation when they turned on this large nuclear device that it was going to split the universe into parallel universes and stuff. And that's what he said. I've been told by a number of listeners that I should be a little more conclusionary in what I think. And so I'm going to try that. We have a huge problem with this censorship. You'll notice everything's about the war. It's all disinformation on both sides. It's like, look over here. Everything else went away. Your pandemic response went away. I live in Portland where we have these insane mask mandates. They finally dropped them. I've been going to a little restaurant maybe twice a week for breakfast. And in the first time in 2 years, I could see with this lady's teeth. Never seen her teeth before. Been going there for 2 years. She has nice teeth, but I mean, I never seen them. And, finally saw them, but I'm just saying all that disappears. Right before all this scandal broke, there was going to be charges that the Hillary Clinton campaign used the FBI and the security agencies to spy on the Trump campaign. That went away. In other words, domestic misuse of the security services, that's off the table. The fact that Mitt Romney, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and John Kerry all have children who work for Burisma, which is a Ukrainian energy company. They all sit on the board, get paid over, some millions of dollars a year for doing nothing. Think about that. Mitt Romney, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and John Kerry. Anyway, that went off the table. The security or lack thereof of the Mexican border, off the table. Any other issue that you might want to consider that's important to you, off the table. In my view, principally because of this censorship, media control. And look over here. The headline in the Wall Street Journal, talks stall as fight for Kiev rages. Okay, what's a raging fight in Kiev? Near as I can tell, last night there were, 4 or 5 explosions, targeted missile aircraft drops, something of that nature. That's you can fire 5 large shells like that from one artillery piece in less than 5 minutes. And that's what they consider, quote unquote, a raging fight. By my military experience, that's a skirmish. Kills a lot of people, but skirmishes kill a lot of people. But it's not a raging. They don't even have an artillery battery, open, firing. Anyway, so it's just everything is just dramatized and a huge problem. I think that's my opinion. I think that. I don't think that this inflation is going to be quickly or easily stopped. I think the split in between East and West because of our overreaction and seizing people's assets without any kind of due process has caused a divorce in the international community, no matter what they say, about our allies, this and that. It's not going to do it. I mean, look at what you did. We're not trust you. So I think that divorce is irreversible, and it's going to have consequences that we'll be working through for years. I further think with these insane shipments of advanced weaponry to Ukraine, that they have functionally destabilized Europe like we destabilized the Middle East when we invaded Iraq. In particular, they gave them whatever they are, FG-48s or 148 Javelin missiles and man pads, Stinger, I can't remember the designation. A disgruntled Nazi, and there are Nazis in the security services in Ukraine, who is upset because you didn't fully come to their support when they were engaged in the war with the Russians and you killed his brother or something. He can use one of those weapons, and he can assassinate any head of state in Europe. All you got to do is find out when he's going to be in a car. He can do it from 1,000 yards or anything inside 1,000 yards. 1,000 yards is a very long way. You ought to go pace it off sometime. But if he can get within 1,000 yards of you, he can kill you. If you're in a plane and he can get within 5 miles of you, he can shoot you down. Okay. And we're shipping large quantities of these weapons into a war zone where the troops that we're shipping them to are fractionalized. They're using mercenaries, volunteers from foreign countries, and they expect that none of those weapons will be used outside proper military channels. It's absolutely insane. So anyway, I think that we destabilized Europe just like we destabilized the Middle East. Think about it. We invaded in 2003. It didn't start to really flip over until 2008, 2010. But we destabilized the whole place. I think that we did the same thing in Europe. That's my opinion. I think that as a species, we're irremediably violent. That's our main problem. We have no deep-seated inhibition about killing other members of our own species, like lions. Don't kill other lions in large numbers because there would be no more lions. But we don't have any deep-seated inhibition, and that tendency to be irremediably violent shows itself in from direct murder all the way down to passive-aggressive behavior. And it's a huge problem. I think that when you threaten the existence of a great power, Russia, China, the United States, India, Pakistan, Britain, and so on, Israel, if you do something to threaten their very existence, I think that no side will admit defeat before it uses all the weapons it has. I think that war consistently expands beyond the purposes for which it was waged in terms of the damage it does. Once you consign a disagreement to settlement by force, escalation is the most successful tactic. And if you start looking at all that and looking at what we're doing, it's a mess. And I've gone over time. I also see here Elon Musk. They asked about his. Well, before I do that, I talked about the battle for Kiev rages, 5 shells. From a military. I mean, I just don't know what to tell you. I was an infantryman. That's not a raging battle. That's a skirmish. I think Putin has lost his position. I don't see how the people in his, he's getting his generals killed. I think he's lost. Well, it depends who you believe, whether, but at least one, maybe as many as 3 general grade officers killed in Ukraine. All right. If you've killed 3 generals just by war statistics, you've killed on the order of a dozen colonels, 50 majors, and innumerable troops, probably 10, 15,000 total by now, because he refuses to use his firepower. He plays patty cake with these Ukrainians. We make the most of it. Oh, look, he killed 20 people. We killed 1 million in Iraq, killed 500,000 in Libya, killed another 500,000 in Syria, and the loss of 15 or 20 Ukrainians is, well, they're white, so makes a big difference apparently. But all this stuff has to break down. I think his position is very, very tenuous. His military has got to be tired of him and the top generals getting him killed. And that's a very dangerous situation to put yourself in. So I think he's, certainly won't come back at the end of his term if he makes it that far. Now to what Elon Musk said. Elon Musk was quoted once as saying, "I didn't set out to be a visionary. I just try and think about the future and not be sad." is what he said. And I should probably do a little more of that. I think we'll muddle through this, but I think we've left these people in charge for 30 years. What did the guy say? The level of inanity in our power structure is why we're here. These people are caught in a 1990s time loop where West Wing runs on TV. Russia and China are very weak, and the neocon and neoliberal Ivy League allies imagine a unipolar world with them at the helm of the empire. I think that's absolutely true. I think we go into our elections. I think they have made so many people angry with their school policy and the way that they've treated the children that there's substantial changes. I think after 2 years of that, we're going to figure out that the Republicans are the exact same thing. You know, you'll get some minor changes on some of your social issues and some of this other stuff, but the big policies, Mitt Romney going on TV and asking, calling people traitors for merely suggesting that we do an inventory of the biolabs, that we left in Ukraine. And all your fact checkers, of course, say there are no biolabs, even though there's been Senate testimony to the contrary, and so on, back to the censorship. But tough on the markets. If you could please put up, we're going to just jump to graph number 4, Justin. We're going to do the markets really quickly and then close it up. I'm already at 35 minutes. This is just from September 30th, 2021 through Monday, March 14th. And you can see that on Monday, March 14th, yesterday, the S&P closed at 4173. Its lowest level in years was 4171, which was set last Tuesday, March 8th. So 4173 to 4171, but below 4200. Put it that way. You can see the prior cycle lows, and so on. And you can see the downtrend since the last prior cycle high reached on January 3rd. And if you can take down number 4 and put up number 5, just so that we can get some perspective here. That's just, what the minutia of the market movements look like, downtrend, etc. And then here's number 5. This graph goes from January 2nd, 2018 to yesterday. There's 4 dips in it, but on the extreme right-hand side, there's a dip that's right over the marker that says October 2nd, 2000. Well, that would be January 2nd, 2019, the end of the year, or the opening of the year. And you can see that dip from peak to trough. The peak was reached in October and the trough was reached in January, was 20%. That was a 20% drop. The next big drop, which is right over the 2nd of April, 2020, was the pandemic drop when back in early 2020 ended on, I think, March 24th. But that drop was 31%. And then if you go to our recent drop over here, just the part on the extreme right-hand side, so far we're only down 13% from our last all-time high to where we closed yesterday. Today, the markets are up close to 2 points, so we're still bouncing back and forth. The point is we cracked 4,200 down. The Fed can't stop inflation. Nobody can stop it. You can take that down. We've divorced half the world, and because of our environmental regulations and desire, quite frankly, when you produce nitric acid, it's dirty. It's huge tonnages, millions of tons a year. So we decided to let other people produce it. Now we don't have access to it. I don't know what these people think. I really don't. They think they're in the 90s and that everybody's got to listen to what we say, and we've told them something. And they all said, no, I don't think so. We don't want to do that. We'll trade in yuan and rubles. India, Pakistan, China, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, that whole area, Indonesia area, the Arab states. Anyway, so we have a problem. Our dollars are going to become worth less and everything else. I think the market has a relief rally in it. It's up 2% today, but as this war ends, winds down, or a conclusion looks like it's in sight, I think you get a relief rally. After that, I don't see how it increases for a number of years until we get all these problems sorted out. Where are you going to get 2 million tons of nitric acid a year? 2 million tons. Just okay. Anyway, but again, that's just one example. Look at the natural gas and the guy that prints the paper. They just don't understand what they're doing. They think that, we'll just go buy it. Okay, you'll go buy it. Where are you going to get the rubles? Where are you going to get the yuan to pay for it? Because they're not going to take your dollars. Because when you get mad at them, steal their dollars without any due process at all. Why are they going to take your dollars? Anyway, and like I said, it's like the reaction to a terrorist attack, a terrible overreaction, and it's not going to stop. Like I said, they're going to elect, more Republicans than they would have otherwise. You'll get some minor changes on social issues, school policy, their ability to make you do this and that. But the big things and their hysterical overreaction is going to remain the same. It's going to take them 2 years to figure that out. And this is going to go on for a number of years. Anyway, the markets last week before the drop yesterday were down, 2.9%, 2.88%. If you had a portfolio of $100,000, you would have expected to lose $2,880. Our portfolios of the largest 30 stocks lost 3,330, so more, and 3,554, a loss, so more. So the top 30 stocks underperformed the market. If you just took the top 3 stocks out of every sector, instead of losing 2,880, you only lost 2,450. So everybody's down. In other words, 54 stocks that we track, 7 went up, 47 went down. There were 7 stocks that were up at all. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them were up less than 1%. Those were ExxonMobil, Duke Energy, Berkshire Hathaway, and Costco. So those were up less than 1%. Southern Energy, the railroad company, up 1.6%. Pfizer up 3.3%. And Chevron, energy company, up 7.7%. Chevron's outperforming all the other energy companies because they don't have any exposure to our ex-wife. Over there, everybody else has to, or ex-husband, or ex-partner, whatever. But, the divorce. But they don't have any exposure. All the other companies have some level of exposure. So for them, it's a mixed bag. You have 5 companies that went down, but down less than 1%. Johnson & Johnson, Amazon, Walmart, and Lowe's in that group. 7 companies that went down in between 1% and 2%. A lot of names you don't know. Bank of America, Google, Visa, MasterCard, both your clearing companies, because the divorce, the Chinese are going to take over all the credit card clearing in all those countries that I mentioned, so these companies, they're going to lose 20, 30% of their value because they're going to lose 20, 30% of their market. India, China, Pakistan, the Arab Peninsula, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, etc. 5 companies down more than 2%, but less than 3%. Your real estate people in there, Home Depot and Honeywell and AT&T. 13 companies down more than 3%, less than 4%. Broadcom, UPS, United Health, Cisco, PayPal, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Verizon Communications, 3M Company, and then some real estate materials concerns that I didn't name. 3 companies down more than 4, but less than 5, JP Morgan Chase, Comcast, and Intel. 3 companies down more than 5 but less than 6: Tesla, Apple, and Netflix. So your big techs, Microsoft was down 3.37. So those are three or five largest companies. Where's Facebook down even further here? There's Facebook down 6.22%. So 5 companies down more than 6 but less than 7: Abbott Laboratories, Facebook, Disney, Nike, and S&P Global. And then 6 companies down more than 7.4%. Coca-Cola. How are they going to sell Coca-Cola and do all the local transportation, purchasing of materials, and manufacturing in rubles or wons, respectively, in, the list of countries? So anyway, their stock is down and going to go lower. Target, just on profit taking. Procter & Gamble down 7.7%. Adobe down 8%. Sherwin-Williams down 9.6% because they can't get the raw materials to make the paint. The base chemicals. Philip Morris down 11%. Apparently, they must have some good Eastern European cigarette distribution. Anyway, stimulus, hysterical overreaction, just like a response to a terrorist attack, caused a divorce in between the West and the East. I personally think with our shipments of these advanced weapons that over the next, call it 15 to 20 years, we've destabilized Europe. Just like we destabilized the Middle East when we invaded in 2003. What did it take, by the way, from 2003 to 2018 to sort that out? I showed pictures the other week of Mosul. You had to retake the cities that they took and stuff like that. So it took, 15 years, 20 years to sort that out. But we just did the same thing in Europe, with their participation. I can hardly wait until somebody, some EU official, some country official, driving in his motorcade gets hit by a goddamn javelin missile fired from 900 yards away. Some aircraft that he and his staff are in gets shot down from 4 miles away. Anyway, that's what I think. Been the Bogdanich Perspective. Join us on Tuesday if you like. I'm going to start splitting the show. I'll take my private comments to a different forum, and I'll try and be more like Elon Musk and throw some happy news in there about how we're all going to muddle through. I'm not so audacious that I'm going to put us on Mars, but we'll try and lighten it up for the public broadcast here. But candidly, I think we have problems. Anyway, join me on Tuesdays, the Bogdanich Perspective. Do Virginia means goodbye.